Quick one. Last video hit over 100 comments, which is absolutely mind-blowing for this channel. Let's try that again for this video. Comment down what you think about these stories, or just a hello, and the team will reply. We always reply to the comments. As always, please like and subscribe and help this channel grow. Thank you. It started out as just another lazy Saturday afternoon. I was sitting in my bedroom flipping through social media when a notification popped up showing I had a new Snapchat. I clicked on it without much thought, assuming it was just one of my friends sending me a random selfie or joke. But when the message opened, I froze. It was from my friend Jenny, but that was impossible. Jenny had died in a tragic car accident 3 months ago. I would recognize that smile anywhere, though, and her username was right there above the message. Hand shaking, I clicked to open the snap. It was a photo of a hiking trail we had gone on together last summer. I remembered that day vividly. We took a silly jumping photo of the summit that I had as my lock screen for weeks afterward. I stared at this Snapchat photo in disbelief. It was the exact spot where we had taken that jumping pic. But Jenny wasn't in this one, just the empty trail behind where we had been standing. I looked closer at the details in the background. The fallen log and bend in the path were unmistakable. This was taken at the summit of the Sunny Valley Trail. But how? Jenny had passed away. Was this some kind of cruel prank? I sat there dumbfounded until another Snapchat came through. My heart dropped again seeing it was from Jenny. This time it was a video. Trees and overcast sky flew by as the camera panned along a country road, one I knew well. Jenny and I used to walk along this road together as kids. We would spend hours picking wildflowers in the meadows it passed. My mind was racing. Was this some kind of cruel joke? Or was Jenny somehow reaching out to me? Tentatively, I typed out a reply. Jenny, is this really you? My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hit send. I didn't have to wait long for a response. The notification sound sent a jolt through my body. This message was a photo of a lake at sunset. Jenny and I had camped there just a few weeks before her fatal accident. We had taken almost this exact photo, laughing about how majestic and peaceful it was. Under the photo, 2 words appeared. It's me. I jerked back from my phone in shock. What's happening? How could this be Jenny? She had died months before. I attended her funeral and watched as they lowered her casket into the ground. But the places in these messages were unmistakable. They were all spots only Jenny could possibly know about. My phone chimed again. Another video. Looking through the windshield of a moving car, driving down a residential street, Jenny's childhood street. The camera zoomed in on a house, Jenny's house. The house she grew up in and where we had played for hours as kids. This is crazy, I thought. Who would go through this much effort to orchestrate something so elaborate and cruel? And why? I decided to test whoever or whatever this could be. I sent a message back referencing a time Jenny and I got in detention together in 7th grade for sneaking out of gym class. The reply was instant. A photo of the parking lot behind the gym at our middle school. This was getting beyond creepy and unsettling at this point. The messages kept coming in, referencing more inside jokes and childhood memories only Jenny could possibly have known about. I asked several specific questions about things we had done together over the years, which the replies answered flawlessly, never missing a single detail. At one point, I even asked for a photo with something highly random I chose on the spot, a spoon hanging off the nose. And sure enough, a Snapchat came in minutes later with just that. As I sat staring at my phone watching the unbelievable messages pour in, a chilling thought occurred to me. There was one other person who knew all of these things about Jenny and me, our friend Mark. He had been there for almost every memory referenced so far. Mark was on that hiking trail, and at the lake. He lived just down the street from Jenny growing up. Could Mark be behind this bizarre and twisted prank? I hadn't talked to him much since Jenny's funeral months ago. He had been acting really strange and evasive ever since, refusing to discuss Jenny or the accident at all. My uneasiness grew as I considered the possibility. Maybe this was some kind of demented joke Mark was playing for his own sick amusement. I decided to call him and get to the bottom of this mystery once and for all. As soon as Mark answered, I could hear loud music and people talking in the background. He was at Murphy's, our old hangout spot. Hey, let's meet up for a drink, Mark shouted over the noise. My blood ran cold. This wasn't Mark's voice at all. It was deeper, almost distorted, and robotic sounding. Yet Mark's name and photo were still displayed on my phone. Something was very, very wrong here. I hung up quickly, my hands shaking in fear and confusion. I stared down at my phone in horror as more messages continued to come in from the imposter. That's when I realized I hadn't actually seen Mark in any of the photos or videos. As my sense of dread grew, I wondered who was behind this twisted game. And what did they want from me? I was suddenly gripped by an urge to destroy my phone and cut off its ability to transmit anything else to this bizarre entity masquerading as my friend. In a frantic rush, I sprinted to the kitchen and began smashing my phone down on the granite counter with all my strength, cracking the screen. As I brought my shaking hands down over and over in a frenzy, the device finally went dark, its menacing messages silenced. Slumping to the floor, I sat there amidst the shattered glass and plastic, breathing heavily, my heart pounding. I had no idea what sinister force had been contacting me through technology and stolen memories, but I knew I never wanted to experience anything so unsettling and creepy again. I pulled myself up and slowly made my way to the sink, turning on the water. As I washed the broken and twisted phone remnants down the drain, I felt a sense of relief. Whatever that entity was, it was over now. The rushing water washed away the last evidence of the bizarre encounter. I left it all behind and decided to avoid social media and any reminders of the past for a while. This was one nightmare I hope to someday forget. It was meant to be a fun weekend getaway with my closest girlfriends from high school. Just a chance for the six of us to reconnect over camping, hiking, and bonfires before we all went our separate ways for college. I documented the whole trip on my Snapchat story, wanting to preserve the memories. The first night we arrived at the campgrounds, we set up our tents in a little cluster, laying out our sleeping bags and unpacking our supplies. My friend Jen arranged some logs around a fire pit while Katie and I gathered kindling and logs from the edge of the woods. Sam and Nicole inflated their air mattresses and rolled them out in their tent. We'd hear other campers chatting and moving around at their own sites nearby, which gave us a comfortable sense of community, like we weren't totally isolated out here. As the sun sank lower, we got a good blaze going in the fire pit. The flickering light pushed back the darkness and cast dancing shadows against the trees. We speared hot dogs on sticks and held them over the flames, turning them slowly until the skins bubbled and browned. Dripping globs of marshmallow fell into the embers with little hisses. Laughter and nostalgic conversation flowed easily as we gorged on perfectly roasted campfire treats. I snapped lots of boomerang videos for my story of Sam wildly waving around her flaming marshmallow stick like a sparkler. Nicole tried and failed to catch marshmallows in her mouth tossed by Katie. Jem gave a funny, cringy rundown of all our old high school crushes while we doubled over giggling. With our bellies full of gooey sugar and warmth radiating from the crackling fire, we eventually crawled into our tents. We kept chatting and joking loudly to each other from inside until finally exhaustion overtook us one by one. The next morning, sun streamed brightly through the nylon walls of the tent, waking me. The fresh, earthy smells of dirt and pine drifted on the morning air. My friends and I changed into hiking clothes and ate a quick breakfast of granola bars before heading out onto the nature trail that led off from the campground. The sounds of our footsteps crunching in the gravel path mingled with birdsong echoing through the sun-speckled forest. The nature trail wound gradually uphill, and soon we were gazing out over the tops of pines stretching for miles below us. At an overlook, we paused for water and selfies with the breathtaking vistas behind us. A light breeze kept the mosquitoes at bay as we continued deeper into the green solitude. Crossing a bubbling stream on an old, mossy fallen log, we pretended to lose our balance and waved our arms wildly, hamming it up for videos. All afternoon we explored the forest, snapping filters onto photos of strange-shaped rocks, unusual plants, or any critters we could spot, which was mostly just birds, squirrels, and the occasional skittering chipmunk. The sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting a golden light as we finally circled back to the campgrounds, pleasantly tired from our hike, but rejuvenated by the fresh mountain air and natural beauty. Heading to our site, we changed into comfy clothes and Katie got the fire going again. We couldn't wait to dig into our foil-wrapped campfire meals we had pre-made. As the flames grew higher, I noticed the other occupied campsites around us were doing the same, small fires popping up in rings and people gathering with clinks of silverware and bottles. But after we ate and darkness crept over the campground, things started getting strange. As my friends and I sat chatting idly around the fire, my phone chimed with a Snapchat notification. I pulled it out, expecting it to be a message from one of the girls sitting right there with me. Instead, It was from an account I didn't recognize, just a random jumble of letters and numbers with no username. Puzzled, I opened the message. It was shaky footage from low to the ground, showing our campsite, from just within the tree line behind it. You could see the back of Jen's head and the glow of our fire through the branches. I felt the chill pass through me even as the heat of the flames flushed my face. Who was lurking right outside our sight watching us? Why were they recording it secretly? I showed the video to my friends, who all looked equally confused and creeped out. We peered into the dark gaps between the trees but saw nothing besides shadows. Trying to shake off the unsettled feeling, I messaged the anonymous account, "Who is this? Why are you sending these?" The only reply was, "I've been watching." Soon another snap came in from a different concealed spot at the edge of our sight. A zoomed-in blurry shot of Sam sitting next to the fire, flames reflected in her glasses. She gasped when she saw herself on my phone screen and quickly scooted closer to us. More eerie snaps followed over the next hour from all around our campsite's perimeter. Brief videos of me gathering more firewood, of Nicole emerging from her tent to go to the restroom, even of all five of us at once, huddled together and looking around uneasily. Intermittently, I would message the account begging them to stop or at least tell us who they were, but the only replies were more cryptic threats. "I've been watching you for hours. You're completely at my mercy out here. Don't worry, I'm enjoying the show." My thumb hovered over the block button, but morbid curiosity kept me watching. My friends, on the other hand, were thoroughly freaked out and demanding I block the creep immediately. As the fire died down, we reluctantly made our way to our tents, glancing over our shoulders and moving in a tight clump. Safely zipped up in our tent, Nicole and I clung to each other and barely slept, listening intently all night for any sound out of the ordinary. When the forest finally began brightening with morning light, we couldn't pack up fast enough. As I took one final sweep of our site before getting in the car, I noticed strange markings carved into a tree near where we parked. They hadn't been there yesterday. My stomach turned as I recognized what they were: our initials. The further we drove from the campground, the more the looming sense of being watched faded, but I still wonder about who was lurking just out of sight, recording us, and how close they might have come while we slept unaware. We planned to spend one more night at the campground before heading home, but needless to say, 6 panicky voicemails to the ranger station from my friends canceled the rest of our reservation. Sometimes I still get the creeping sense I'm being observed when I'm alone. I'll whirl around quickly but never spot anyone. It's probably just paranoia, I tell myself. Still, I haven't gone camping since that weekend, and hope I never find out if we were being tracked by something more sinister than a prankster with a camera. The anonymous Snapchatter's final message lingers in my mind. "Leaving so soon. Don't worry, I'll be watching wherever you go next." It started out like any other day. I woke up, grabbed my phone, and mindlessly opened Snapchat to see what my friends were up to. But when I opened the app, I was greeted with a flurry of concerned messages. "Are you okay? What's going on with you? I'm here if you need to talk." At first, I thought it was strange that so many people were reaching out to check on me, but I didn't think much of it. I replied to a few messages saying I was fine and had no idea what they were talking about, but the messages just kept pouring in, each one more urgent than the last. My friend Jen sent me a long text saying she got some really angry messages from my Snapchat account accusing her of flirting with my boyfriend. I was stunned. Jen has been my best friend since middle school. I would never accuse her of doing anything to hurt me, especially over Snapchat. The messages said things like, "I know you've been after Ryan this whole time, and you're supposed to be my friend, but you stabbed me in the back." When I profusely apologized and swore it wasn't me who sent those messages, Jen said she didn't know what to believe. It seemed so much like something I would say with how personal and cutting the messages were. At this point, my heart started racing with anxiety. It was clear someone was impersonating me on Snapchat and sending vicious messages to all my friends. I frantically texted a few other close friends asking if they had gotten any bizarre messages from my account recently. The responses I got confirmed my worst fears. My friend Alex said he got a snap that was supposedly from me, but when he opened it, the picture was of some girl he had never seen before. Jasmine said she got a message demanding that she stop talking to her ex who I never had an issue with. And Tyler told me my account messaged him saying we should hook up when I'm completely not interested in him and have told him that many times politely. I felt sick to my stomach realizing the scope of the impersonation unfolding. Some stranger was posing as me and sending inappropriate messages to all my contacts. I immediately opened Snapchat to try and figure out who hijacked my account. But when I went to log in, my password wasn't working. I tried resetting it, but nothing worked. Whoever took over my Snapchat had changed the password to lock me out completely. I was panicking, imagining what embarrassing or damaging things this impersonator could be saying to people under my name. In a moment of clarity, I remembered there was one other person besides me who knew my old Snapchat password, my boyfriend, Ryan. We had been dating for a year, and I trusted him completely. A wave of anger washed over me as I realized he must be behind this fake account slandering me to my friends. It all clicked. The messages to Jen accusing her of flirting with Ryan, the fake picture sent to another guy. It was my boyfriend trying to manipulate my friends for some sick, twisted reason. I felt betrayed and violated. I immediately texted Ryan demanding an explanation. At first he played dumb, but when I said I was changing my passwords, he confessed. He said he just wanted to test my friends by impersonating me and see if anyone would cross the line. I was horrified and disgusted. I broke up with Ryan on the spot over text, telling him he needed serious help if he thought any part of what he did was okay. I promptly blocked his number, hoping I would never have to speak to or see someone who would violate me like that again. But the damage was already done. Over the next few days, I learned just how far my psycho ex had taken his cruel impersonation scheme. He sent flirty messages to random guys from my school I would never talk to, making it look like I was cheating on him and damaging my reputation. He told lies about my friends, trying to turn everyone against each other, and he sent weird passive-aggressive messages to my best friends to try and test their loyalty. It was like he injected poison into all my closest relationships. I spent weeks apologizing and explaining to everyone that it wasn't really me who sent those insane messages. Some people understood it was all Ryan's manipulation, but others cut me out of their lives. They said even if I personally didn't send the snaps, I was guilty by association for dating someone so twisted and messed up. It was absolutely devastating to have people I cared about accusing me of being toxic or manipulative when this was all Ryan's doing. I felt violated that my privacy had been exploited like that by someone I trusted. Ryan stole part of my identity just to entertain his own deranged agenda. He knew my insecurities and what buttons to push, so the messages seemed personal and cutting even though they were total lies. I reported his behavior to Snapchat, and the impersonation account was deleted. I also changed all my login information and set up two-factor authentication so he could never access any of my accounts again. It's been months now, but I'm still trying to pick up the pieces of my social life. Every time I open Snapchat, I'm afraid of what kind of hateful impersonation might be waiting for me. Ryan's cruel betrayal left me with trust issues that make me question even my closest friendships. He knew exactly how to fracture everything I cared about from the inside out. I don't know if I'll ever look at social media or relationships the same way again after having my identity stolen like that. The scariest part is knowing there are predators out there who will take advantage of our online lives and connections for their own agendas. I learned that lesson the hard way. Now I'm much more cautious about what I share and who I let get close to me, both online and off. My Snapchat horror story definitely became a cautionary tale about privacy, betrayal, and the darker parts of human nature. When I received the first anonymous Snapchat, I didn't think much of it at first. It was just a quick photo of me sitting at my desk, eyes glued to my computer screen mid-email. I looked up in confusion, forcing an uneasy smile at the camera lens before glancing around quizzically. But all I saw were my coworkers, heads down, focused intently on their own work. I chuckled it off nervously, assuming someone was trying to play a harmless prank. If only I had realized then that it was only the beginning of a nightmarish saga of technological stalking that would leave me questioning my own sanity. Over the next few days, more candid snaps rolled in, each one amplifying my unease. The photos all depicted mundane moments of my boring daily office routine, making a fresh pot of coffee in the break room, photocopying important documents, even heading to the bathroom down the hall. It slowly dawned on me that I was being secretly surveilled from odd, voyeuristic angles by someone hiding in plain sight. My hackles rose as I realized this unknown stalker could be lurking anywhere in the office, patiently waiting for those split seconds when I was unguarded, just waiting for the chance to covertly photograph my most private, mundane moments. I urgently reported the unsettling snaps to HR, hoping they could help identify the culprit behind these invasive photos. But I hit a brick wall. Without clear evidence of who was orchestrating this stalking campaign, their hands were tied. They informed me. In the meantime, I was advised to lock my phone and remain vigilant, but these paltry precautions barely helped. Despite beefing up my privacy settings, the snaps kept flooding in from an endless array of burner accounts anytime I tried blocking one. It was evident this anonymous stalker was technologically savvy and determined to continue tormenting me. Over the next week, the covert photos became more frequent and invasive than I thought possible. I was bombarded with dozens of snaps streaming in daily, pulled from hidden security cameras and recording devices I was oblivious to. I felt completely violated at realizing I no longer had a moment of privacy left while at the office. Even my most mundane conversations with close coworkers were being secretly photographed and documented. It was a total and complete invasion of my life. Soon it became disturbingly clear that my every move, both in and out of the office, was being closely monitored and cataloged. On my commute home, snaps would arrive depicting me picking up groceries or waiting for the bus after work. Mundane moments like washing dishes or watching Netflix at home were also being closely watched and documented. Even my most intimate times like sleeping or getting dressed were not off limits, as evidenced by the chilling snaps waiting for me first thing in the mornings. My home, my safe haven from work, had also been compromised. I felt more paranoid than ever, knowing the stalker's reach now clearly extended far beyond just my workplace. I racked my brain trying to figure out who could possibly be so obsessed with chronicling my every moment, no matter how mundane. A jealous ex-lover seeking payback. An unhinged client taking their fixation too far. Or maybe just some random unstable stranger who came across my social media presence. I changed my username multiple times hoping to deter my assailant, but the endless onslaught persisted no matter what I tried. Soon sinister messages began to accompany the invasive photos, indicating this anonymous stalker felt a bold, intimidating confidence in their abilities. It became completely overwhelming and unbearable receiving dozens of snaps a day from constantly changing accounts. I blocked each one, only to have 3 more crop up in its place every time. The physical and emotional toll of being under such constant surveillance rapidly escalated. I became a nervous, jittery wreck, barely sleeping and unable to focus at work or live anything approaching a normal life outside the office. I was paranoid, anxious, sleep-deprived, and could barely eat from the anxiety twisting my stomach. Every small noise made me jump, hyper-aware this unseen stalker could be lurking around any corner, watching and waiting. I knew something had to be done before things progressed even further, but the police said they were limited without clear evidence, which I still lacked. Running out of options, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I hid out late one night back at the office, lying in wait to try and identify my stalker. Around midnight, I heard footsteps approaching and saw a shadowy figure prowling around outside my office, clearly intending to take more photos of me. Concealed around a corner, I watched the scene unfold with bated breath. My blood ran cold when I realized it was my own supervisor, Mark, skulking around with camera in hand. Before he noticed my presence there, I flipped on the lights and angrily confronted him. He stood there stammering excuses, unable to deny what he had been caught red-handed doing. The overwhelming relief I felt at finally unmasking my stalker quashed any lingering fear in that moment. I promptly reported Mark's disturbing illicit activities to HR first thing the next morning. Thanks to catching him in the act, his termination was swift and immediate. For the first time in weeks, I could finally breathe easy again, no longer compulsively glancing over my shoulder everywhere I went. I could sleep soundly again at night knowing my tormentor was gone. But it took time to rebuild my frayed nerves after such a brazen violation of my privacy and personal space at both work and home. I emerged from the experience wiser but less stupid about the potential threats hiding right beside me. I vowed never again to ignore suspicious behavior from those around me. My perspective had forever changed after being forced to confront the harsh reality that some people will stop at nothing when obsessed with controlling and tormenting others. It shaped me with a newfound awareness in my dealings with both strangers and those close to me alike. But it also instilled a quiet strength within, having survived such an ordeal. I knew if I could live through having my entire life turned upside down by an unhinged stalker, I could face anything. The experience revealed reserves of courage and resilience I never knew I had. I was sitting in math class staring blankly at the whiteboard as our teacher went on and on about derivatives. The concepts weren't sinking in and my mind was wandering. I pulled out my phone and opened up Snapchat, scrolling mindlessly through my feed hoping someone had posted something interesting enough to catch my attention. A flashy geofilter suddenly appeared. Lakewood High School in bold text over a cartoon image of a lake. I was intrigued since I didn't recognize the name Lakewood High. I clicked on the geofilter and saw a flood of Snapchat stories from students I had never seen before. My curiosity got the better of me, so I clicked on one of the accounts at random. It belonged to a girl named Cherry. She looked to be about my age, with long golden blonde hair, big blue eyes, and a radiant smile. Her Bitmoji was adorable, a little cartoon figure with pink glasses and a blue sundress. I watched her story, giggling at the funny Snapchat filters she and her friends were trying on. Cherry seemed nice, like the type of girl I'd want to be friends with in real life. Before I could overthink it, I added her as a friend on impulse. To my surprise, she added me back right away. I noticed Cherry didn't have many other friends added on her account either. I decided to break the ice and introduce myself. She responded immediately telling me she had just transferred to Lakewood High and didn't know many people yet. We started chatting throughout the day about like topics like classes, music, movies, and other things we had in common. The conversation flowed easily with Cherry. She had such a warm, bubbly personality. At one point, she even complimented me, commenting on how pretty she thought I was in my pictures and asking why I didn't have more friends added. Her attention made me feel noticed in a way I hadn't experienced before. Over the next few weeks, Cherry and I grew closer and closer. I would send her pictures of my daily outfits and makeup looks, which she would gush over, hyping up my appearance with so much enthusiasm. She made me feel like the most beautiful girl in the world. It was nice to have such a supportive friend, especially since I'd never had someone so focused on making me feel good about myself before. Eventually, I opened up to Cherry about some of the girls at my high school who bullied me like Courtney and her crew of popular friends. I described how they would make fun of my clothes, my awkwardness, basically anything and everything about me. Cherry was always so understanding, building up my confidence and reassuring me that I shouldn't care what petty girls like Courtney thought. She said if she went to my school, we would have been best friends, and she would have told Courtney off. I really believed I had finally found the perfect confidant. One day, I saw Cherry post something that worried me. She shared a screenshot of a really nasty private message Courtney had sent me, calling me ugly and making fun of my weight in very explicit terms. It was humiliating. Cherry urged me to report Courtney's bullying and stand up for myself. But I was mortified of anyone else seeing that mean message, so I begged her to just ignore it. However, the next day, the horrible screenshot was everywhere, posted all over social media for the world to see. It turned out there was no girl named Cherry who had just transferred to Lakewood High. Cherry's whole identity was completely made up. She had catfished me, luring me into trusting her with my secrets and insecurities, only to use them against me. The severe bullying intensified with people I didn't even know sending me cruel comments and messages online. I tried blocking them, but there were too many fake accounts to keep track of. I deleted all my social media, but the harassment continued relentlessly in the hallways at school. My self-esteem was destroyed. I became anxious and depressed, dreading having to face Courtney and her friends at school every day. Eventually, I figured out who was truly behind the fake Cherry profile, a girl named Penn who I used to be friends with in middle school. We'd grown apart freshman year and didn't spend much time together anymore. I guess I never realized how much losing my friendship had hurt Penn. Or maybe she had secretly hated me all along and saw the opportunity to finally get revenge through Cherry. I still don't understand what made Penn despise me enough to betray me in such a horrific way. I ended up switching schools to escape the bullying, but the damage was already done. I struggle to trust new friends now, constantly fearful of them betraying me like Penn did. I keep my circle small and avoid getting too close to anyone. And I've stayed off social media completely, terrified that one wrong friend request could unravel my world again. My experience showed me how fleeting high school status and relationships can be. But the trauma of being targeted and betrayed cuts so much deeper, leaving me broken in ways that years later I am still struggling to recover from. Though on the outside I seem fine, part of me is still that fragile girl longing to reclaim the carefree spirit she had before she added Cherry. I was chilling at home on a typical lazy night when I got a Snapchat notification from someone I didn't know named Nathan. His profile picture showed a nice-looking guy who seemed to be around my age, with warm brown eyes and a friendly smile. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I should open a message from a stranger, but curiosity got the best of me. When I did open the snap, it was a selfie video of him enthusiastically waving and saying hi in a cheerful voice. He seemed nice and approachable, so I decided to wave back and sent him a response to introduce myself. Over the next few days, Nathan kept sending me snaps, and we started having fun, flirty conversations. He had an easygoing sense of humor and made me laugh with amusing commentary on everyday things. I was pleasantly surprised to find such a great, down-to-earth guy right from my phone screen. Nathan explained that he was new to town for a job opportunity and didn't know many people in the area yet. He asked if I'd like to meet up for coffee so we could get to know each other better in person. I enthusiastically agreed. He was just as sweet and charming over our snaps as I could have hoped. When we met at the coffee shop, Nathan looked even better than his photos. He had an athletic build, warm brown eyes that lit up when he smiled, and a friendly openness about him. Our conversation flowed easily, and I found myself charmed by his quick wit. He was clearly putting effort into impressing me, asking thoughtful questions and listening intently to my answers. I couldn't believe I found such a genuine connection from a simple Snapchat interaction. Nathan and I started dating, and he treated me like a princess, surprising me with flowers, taking me out to romantic dinners, always opening doors for me and showering me with compliments. I felt myself falling for him hard and fast. When he invited me on a stargazing trip up to the secluded hills outside of town, I readily agreed, giddy at the thought of snuggling under the stars with this incredible man. When we arrived at the remote destination late that night, however, something felt off. There were no other cars in the moonlit parking area, and an eerie silence hung over the woods. As Nathan led me down a winding dirt path, I hesitated, glancing back toward the lights of the town in the distance. "Let's go back," I suggested, a creeping unease growing in my stomach. But Nathan was insistent, saying there was an amazing overlook just up ahead we couldn't miss out on. Reluctantly, I continued following him deeper into the forest. Finally, we came upon a small clearing, the tree cover opening up to a swath of dark, starry sky. But instead of the sweeping scenic view Nathan had promised, I saw two sketchy-looking men lurking nearby, their faces obscured by shadow. My heart dropped into my shoes as I realized this had all been a setup. Nathan roughly grabbed my arm, his friendly facade vanishing as he snarled, "Don't make this difficult." The other men leered, sizing me up like prey about to be devoured. I was utterly terrified, but tried to keep my voice steady. "You could take my purse, my phone, anything," I bargained, hoping they'd take the money and run. But one of the men just laughed coldly, saying they weren't interested in my stuff. No, they had much more sinister intentions for me. The realization made my blood run cold. They slowly moved toward me, taunting me with what they had planned, clearly enjoying watching my fear skyrocket. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I frantically scanned the surroundings, searching for an escape route. But we were high up on an isolated cliff, with steep, rocky slopes dropping off on all sides. Even if I could break free of Nathan's grip, I have nowhere to run. Still, as the men closed in, I knew this was my only chance. Mustering every ounce of strength, I sharply stomped down on Nathan's foot with my boot. He howled in pain, just enough for me to wrench my arm free. I bolted straight for the tree line, the men cursing loudly behind me. I plunged blindly into the woods, branches whipping against me as I went crashing through the underbrush. My pursuer's heavy footfalls and enraged yelling urged me to run faster than I ever had before. I didn't dare look back, focusing only on putting as much distance between myself and those monsters as possible. I scrambled desperately over the uneven terrain, ignoring the sting as thorns and rocks bloodied my hands and shredded my knees. Nothing mattered except getting to safety. Finally, the sounds of pursuit faded away, but still I kept stumbling forward in panicked flight until I thought I would pass out. At last my legs gave out and I collapsed behind a large fallen tree, gasping for air, my whole body shaking. Once I caught my breath, I crept cautiously onward, jumping at every snapping twig or rustling noise. Only when I finally emerged from the woods near a ranger station did relief wash over me. I banged frantically on the door until a worried park employee opened up. Taking in my disheveled, bloodied appearance with alarm, I managed to sob out my terrifying tale as he quickly called the police, who arrived to get a report and bring me to the hospital for care. Apparently, Nathan's real identity was Nathaniel, a known trafficker who lured in victims online using disposable phones and fake accounts. He was slippery and had so far evaded capture. The police said I was incredibly lucky to have gotten away unharmed, as most didn't escape the clutches of his ring once reeled in. I still have frequent nightmares recalling those men chasing me through the dark forest, barely escaping their evil plans by the skin of my teeth. But I'm trying to focus on feeling empowered that despite the trauma, I found the inner fortitude to fight back against the odds. My only comfort is knowing that I survived and now have the chance to share my cautionary tale, helping warn other women to be careful meeting strangers online. I can only hope law enforcement is able to catch Nathaniel soon, before he destroys anyone else's life. For now, all I can do is work on healing and moving forward with gratitude that I managed to make it out of those woods alive. When I downloaded Snapchat for the first time, I saw it as just another social media app to pass the time. I never could have imagined it would become the platform for the most terrifying experience of my life. At first, I used Snapchat like most people do, swapping silly selfies with friends, watching stories, applying filters to photos. It was just a bit of harmless fun. Then one night, as I was idly browsing through Snapchat profiles, I came across hers. Even in the small profile picture, her beauty was startling. She had these vivid green eyes that seemed to pierce through the screen and long golden blonde hair that framed her face perfectly. I was transfixed. Before I knew what I was doing, I had sent her a friend request. To my excitement, she accepted it almost instantly. We started messaging immediately. Her name was Emily, and she was just as charming over text as she appeared in her snaps. We really hit it off right away, spending hours trading messages about our lives, interests, random thoughts. She had this infectious, melodic laugh and a quirky, offbeat sense of humor I found so endearing. I felt that I could talk to her about anything serious or silly, and she would just get it. It was a connection deeper than anything I'd felt before, even with people I knew in real life. After a couple weeks of constant, easy conversation, our messaging gradually became more flirtatious. The photos Emily sent got progressively more revealing too, some just barely staying within Snapchat's terms of use. I was enthralled by her beauty and found myself wanting more and more. One night, emboldened by a few drinks, I worked up the courage to ask if she'd feel comfortable sending nudes. While anxiously awaiting her reply, my drunken mind rationalized that risk-away photos wouldn't be a big deal as long as we kept it just between us. To my surprise, she happily obliged minutes later with a provocative shot that exceeded my wildest expectations. What started as occasional nude photos quickly evolved over the coming weeks into something more intense. Emily began requesting increasingly explicit images and videos from me, and I agreed every time. I felt so connected to her that I couldn't bear to disappoint her or have her lose interest. Her praise and satisfaction seemed to fill a void in me I didn't know was there. I ignored the voice in my head telling me something about this was off. I was too caught up in the excitement and fantasy of it all, carried away by how she made me feel. Then came the day that violently shattered the fantasy world we had built together. I opened Snapchat to see a chilling message from an unknown account. They said they had hacked Emily's account and gained access to our entire chat history, including the huge trove of explicit images and videos I had sent over the months. My stomach dropped and my hands trembled so hard I could barely hold my phone. It was like some sort of nightmare, except there was no waking up from this. The unknown person demanded $5,000 immediately if I ever wanted to see the photos deleted. I pleaded and begged for them to show mercy or basic decency, but they were firm. No money meant the pictures would go viral for all my family and friends to see, they threatened. Panic flooding my veins, I frantically emptied my meager bank account and racked up massive credit card debt to scrape together the payment. But it wasn't over. They reminded me this was only the beginning. More money would be expected soon. What followed were the most anxiety-ridden weeks of my life. I was constantly on edge, haunted by the fear of my private photos surfacing while dreading the next demand for money. I could barely eat or sleep, dropping weight rapidly. I jumped every time my phone buzzed, certain it was the blackmailer back for more. When the threats eventually stopped, the paranoia still remained. I looked at anyone who messaged me online with suspicion, convinced they could be connected to the extortion plot. Even now, months later, I still feel traumatized, afraid every photo online is being scrutinized and judged. Looking back with clarity, I'm stunned at how recklessly I acted. Craving an emotional connection in my lonely life, I ignored blatant warning signs, handing over my trust and power to a complete stranger. I felt like I knew Emily deeply, but really I knew nothing about the actual human being behind the lens. My judgment was compromised by my desire for intimacy and validation, and I paid the price for that self-deception. While the scars from being exploited and manipulated still linger, I'm trying to take away valuable lessons. I'm much more cautious now about what personal information and photos I share online, no matter how close I think I am to someone. I listen to my gut instincts instead of just my emotions. I understand the need for real in-person connections, as challenging as those are for me sometimes. And I know now that real intimacy requires honesty and openness, not just fantasy and transgression. I'm grateful I escaped my ordeal relatively intact, unlike others targeted by such extortion scams online. All I can do is share my cautionary tale so no one else falls into this truly nightmarish trap. My hope is that even one person might think twice before trusting so recklessly online and spare themselves the trauma and self-destructive shame I endured. If just one person learns from my mistakes, perhaps some good can still come out of this harrowing experience that will haunt me forever. It all started so innocently. I was bored one night, endlessly flipping through Snapchat stories on my phone, looking for something entertaining to capture my attention. As I swiped through the mundane updates from old high school friends and celebrity accounts, one profile in particular caught my eye. The name was Adventure Seeker 456. Intrigued, I clicked to watch his story and was fascinated by what I saw. His snaps showed him living such an exciting, adventurous lifestyle, hiking through rugged mountain trails, cliff diving into crystal blue waters, paragliding over expansive landscapes. He seemed to be constantly traveling to some new exotic destination, doing thrilling activities I had only ever dreamed of experiencing myself. I was envious and found myself clicking through his story several times, hitting all the places he had been and adventures he had embarked on. After a few days of viewing his stories, I worked up the courage to add Adventure Seeker 456 as a friend on Snapchat. I didn't expect him to add me back, assuming he had thousands of followers from all over the world. But to my surprise, he accepted my request almost instantly. I was overjoyed when I saw those familiar Snapchat spectacles next to his name appear in my friend list. We started communicating through the chat feature, at first just casual exchanges about our days, hobbies, interests. His real name was Eric, he told me, and he seemed laid back and easy to talk to. He asked thoughtful questions about my life and seemed genuinely interested in learning all about me. I couldn't help but feel flattered by the attention. Over the next few weeks, Eric and I continued snapping and chatting daily. With each conversation, he made me feel more special, like I was the only person in his world he wanted to talk to. He would send me individual snaps just for me, usually showcasing his latest adventure destination. Wish you were here. He would write over images of himself biking through Costa Rica or tasting exotic foods in Thailand. It felt like he was bringing me along on his travels, even if just virtually. I found myself anxiously awaiting his messages each day. My dull life seemed more exciting through Eric's eyes. I couldn't help but fantasize about what it would be like if we ever met in person. He lived a few states away, but mentioned he came to my city often for business. The idea of seeing each other face to face made my heart flutter, though part of me worried the reality could never live up to my imagination. During one late night chat session, Eric brought up an enticing opportunity. He wanted me to invest in an upcoming entrepreneurial venture of his. He couldn't share many details over Snapchat, but promised it was going to be hugely successful and groundbreaking in the industry. He said he could get me in on the ground level if I invested now before it launched publicly. I was intrigued but also wary of sending money to someone I'd never met. Sensing my hesitation, Eric made a convincing case about why I could trust him. He said he cared about me deeply and would never steer me wrong. This business of his was apparently going to bring us both fortunes once it took off. His confidence and charm wore down my doubts. I decided to take a leap of faith. Against my better judgment, I wired a substantial amount of money to an account Eric provided. It was more than I felt comfortable parting with, but he swore I'd earn it all back and then some once his business got off the ground. I just had to be patient. This was the opportunity of a lifetime, he said. In the days following my transfer, I anxiously awaited updates from Eric about my investment. But suddenly, his messages became less frequent, then stopped completely. My texts went unread. I constantly checked Snapchat, but there was only radio silence from his end. He had ghosted me. Panicked, I went out online to try and find anything I could about Eric and his supposed business venture. But I found no trace of him or his company. Clearly, I had been scammed. I felt like such a fool for trusting this stranger who had seemed so genuine. I spent hours desperately trying to find a way to get my money back, but Eric had covered his tracks well. I considered going to the police, but I had little evidence or details about the person who duped me. I could only blame my own foolishness and resolved to never again invest blindly in someone I didn't know, no matter how convincing they seemed over social media. Eric had taken advantage of our Snapchat relationship and disappeared from my life as quickly as he entered it. The whole ordeal left me heartbroken, frustrated, and wary of who I could trust online. I was too embarrassed to tell my family and friends how gullible I had been. I could only chalk it up as a costly life lesson learned the hard way. Now when I scroll through Snapchat, I stick to people I know in real life. The days of eagerly awaiting a snap from Adventure Seeker 456 are long gone. I keep my distance from charming strangers and investment opportunities presented over social media. Getting duped once was more than enough for me. I won't let another scammer manipulate my trust so easily ever again. The pain of that experience will stay with me, a reminder to always be cautious sharing details or money with anyone online, no matter how perfect they seem. Thanks for listening in. If you like these stories and want to hear more, then please subscribe and like and support this new channel. We have more stories for you to listen to.